At her adopted daughter Claire's extravagant wedding, Evelyn Brooks stood at the entrance, clutching an envelope that held a secret worth $60 million. But rather than being greeted warmly, Claire publicly humiliated her, calling her an embarrassment and ordering her to leave. What Claire didn't know was that Evelyn had spent her entire life saving that fortune for her. Months later, when Claire's seemingly perfect marriage fell apart, leaving her pregnant and heartbroken, she found herself standing at the doorstep of the very woman she had once rejected, only to discover that mercy would come with conditions she never expected. Before we proceed, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, we would love for you to hit the subscribe button. Your support means everything to us and helps us bring more powerful stories to you. Stick with us till the end, and if this story resonates with you, drop your thoughts in the comments and share it with a friend. Now let's get started. The alley reeked of damp cardboard and yesterday's rain. A cold breeze cut through the quiet, carrying the faint hum of traffic from the main road. Under a broken street lamp, Evelyn Brooks paused. She was heading home after another double shift, her shoes worn thin, her back aching. But it wasn't the physical discomfort that made her stop. It was the soft, muffled cry she heard coming from the shadows. Her eyes adjusted, and there it was, a bundle of rags against the wall, moving slightly. Evelyn's breath caught. Trembling, she bent down and pulled back the thin cloth. A tiny face, pale as porcelain, was streaked with tears. A baby, alone and abandoned. For a moment she froze. The weight of the decision pressed heavily on her chest. She had nothing, barely enough to keep herself alive. People passed by on the other side of the street, some glancing, most ignoring her. Evelyn whispered to herself, "If I walk away, she won't make it through the night." And so she didn't walk away. She scooped the baby into her arms, her warmth immediately quieting the tiny sobs. She named her Claire because, as she later told herself, this child would one day be her clear purpose in life. The years that followed were not easy. Evelyn worked as a cleaner in offices by day and as a caregiver by night. Her hands were always raw from bleach, and her back stiff from lifting. Yet every coin she earned seemed to vanish into baby formula, tiny shoes, or school fees. Neighbors whispered from their porches, "She's not even her real mother. Raising a white child, she's crazy." Evelyn heard it all. Sometimes, the words were thrown directly at her as she walked past, Claire's little hand in hers. But she never responded with anger. Instead, she held her head a little higher, squeezed Claire's hand a little tighter, and kept walking. When Claire needed glasses, Evelyn skipped meals to buy them. When she wanted piano lessons, Evelyn sold her wedding ring. And when she asked for new shoes for a school dance, Evelyn worked 3 nights straight to make it happen. Deep inside, Evelyn told herself it was all worth it. Every sacrifice meant her daughter could shine brighter. But there was one thing no one knew. While Evelyn gave everything, she was also quietly saving. Each paycheck, no matter how small, was a piece set aside. She taught herself to read financial papers, studied investment brochures during lunch breaks, and asked quiet questions at the bank. Pennies grew into dollars and dollars grew into portfolios. By the time Claire had grown up, Evelyn's secret savings had transformed into something unimaginable. $60 million. Her plan was simple. On Claire's wedding day, she would finally reveal it. A marriage gift, a future secured. But for now she said nothing. She simply smiled at her daughter, proud and tired, believing that all the pain and sacrifice had been leading up to that one perfect moment. The venue rose like a glass cathedral, all chrome edges and white roses, their fragrance floating through the warm afternoon air. Music drifted softly from hidden speakers. A valet opened doors for black SUVs that arrived one after another, people stepping out in glitter and press suits. Evelyn paused at the curb, smoothing the crease in her thrifted dress, the envelope held under her palm like a heartbeat. Inside the foyer, light spilled across marble floors. Staff whispered into headsets, a planner waved a clipboard, and a champagne tower cast prisms on the ceiling. Evelyn walked carefully along the red carpet, sticking to the edge. Her shoes clicked, hesitant. She could smell the lilies, the wax of polished wood, and a hint of citrus from the freshly polished hands of the staff. A guest in a sequin gown glanced over her shoulder. "Who's that?" one asked. "Not sure," a man replied, vendor from somewhere. Their voices faded into the strings of a quartet. At the check-in desk, a young man in a black tie scanned a tablet. His smile was practiced. "Name please?" he asked. "Evelyn Brooks," she said softly. His finger slid across the tablet, paused, then slid again, a microfrown appearing. The planner leaned in, eyeing the name. "Do you mean Evelyn Vendor? Florist?" she asked as the headset crackled. "I'm the mother," Evelyn answered almost in a whisper. She lifted the envelope just an inch, then tucked it back down as though it might startle. The planner's smile tightened. "One moment, ma'am," she said, speaking into her mic with her head tilted. Another staff member arrived, and the tablet was refreshed. The line of guests pressed behind them, restless, perfume and cologne rising in the warm air. "Hey, mind the runner," a videographer called, guiding Evelyn a step off the carpet. "Bride's about to make a pass." Polite, not unkind, just busy. Evelyn exhaled, her fingers finding the edge of the envelope. She breathed the way she learned on long night shifts, slow in, slow out. The tablet bearer cleared his throat. I'm not seeing that name on the list." His voice softened. "We can check again." A pair of bridesmaids drifted close, their satin gowns catching the light. "Is she lost?" one whispered. "Maybe she's press," the other said. "No badge though." Then Claire appeared, glossed hair, pearl veil pinned in a perfect arc, her beauty accentuated by makeup and spotlights. For a moment, their eyes met. The years between the alley, the homework, and the dinners on chipped plates flashed before Evelyn's eyes like a film reel. Her mouth almost formed a smile. Claire blinked once. Her jaw set. She didn't look at the envelope. She looked at the dress, the shoes, the frayed purse strap. "We talked about this," she said quickly, her voice low. She glanced at the planner, then at the camera circling her. Her fingers smoothed her bodice in a nervous, polished gesture. "You weren't supposed to come." Andrew's friends chuckled at something off camera. Behind him, a groomsman observed the scene and nudged another. "Who's she?" he asked. "Not on the list," came the reply, eyes already drifting away. "PR's gonna freak." Claire's voice dropped, almost a hiss disguised as a smile. "This is a brand new day. Guests are uncomfortable. I can't let this happen." She didn't finish her sentence. She didn't need to. A security guard, big but disinterested, loitered nearby, casting a shadow over the situation. The planner offered a soft alternative. "We can escort you to the public terrace if you'd prefer to watch the procession from afar." Evelyn swayed like a leaf in the wind for a brief moment before steadying herself, giving a small nod. "No tears. Not yet." The envelope pressed against her palm, the paper's texture soft and familiar. One of the bridesmaids tried to make things easier with a half-hearted shrug. "Hey, it's nothing personal," she said, her smile stiff. "It's just, numbers and capacity." Her gaze flickered away before she finished her thought. Evelyn turned away, the world around her suddenly becoming more textured. The chill from the glass wall, the hum of the air conditioning, the faint scent of eucalyptus mingling with the flowers. Someone brushed past, murmuring, "Sorry." Another guest muttered under his breath, "Awkward." At the revolving doors, an older waiter stepped aside, caught her eye, and gave her a slight nod. Respect, mixed with pity, radiated from his gesture. "Take care, ma'am," he murmured, almost inaudible. The kindness stung deeper than the cruelty. Outside, the heat of the city wrapped around her. Traffic hummed nearby. A breeze lifted the veil of a woman rushing by, and for a moment, it fluttered across Evelyn's wrist like a ghostly touch of lace. She adjusted her sleeve, checked the envelope. Still there. Still heavy. She made her way down the steps, each step cautious, measured. At the curb, a couple whispered behind her. "Did she crash the wedding?" one asked. "Maybe a relative they don't claim," the other replied. "It happens." Evelyn didn't react. She reached the bus stop, sat on the cool metal bench, and placed the envelope on her knees. The city moved around her, indifferent. She watched her own reflection in the glass, lined face, steady eyes, and exhaled a long, quiet breath. Not broken. Not yet. When the bus finally arrived, she stood, clutching the envelope to her chest. Each movement a quiet decision. No scene. No spectacle. Just a woman carrying a gift the world wasn't ready to acknowledge yet. The bus ride that night passed in a blur of neon lights and engine hums. Evelyn sat pressed against the window, her reflection trembling with every bump in the road. The envelope rested on her lap, its corners damp with the sweat from her palms. She had once dreamed of handing it to Claire with joy, trembling with excitement, imagining the look on her daughter's face, softened by shock and gratitude. Now the paper felt heavier than bricks. Her small house greeted her with silence. The clock ticked. The fridge hummed. Evelyn placed the envelope on the kitchen table, staring at it. She sat there for hours, hands clasped, eyes red but dry. Almost to herself she whispered, "If she doesn't want me, then this gift isn't hers anymore." Days blurred into weeks. The sting of humiliation began to fade, replaced by a quiet clarity. One morning, Evelyn woke with a hard decision solidifying in her chest. She took the envelope, went to the bank, and started transferring the money, not to her daughter, but into something bigger. She founded the Claire House Foundation, named not out of bitterness, but as a reminder of the child she had once found in an alley. The foundation began small, a rented space, 6 staff members, a pot of soup simmering on a second-hand stove. But word spread. Donations trickled in. Volunteers arrived. Within months, Evelyn had shelters all over the city. Children who once slept on the streets now had beds and books. She became a quiet force of hope, respected in ways money could never earn. Meanwhile, Evelyn's name started circulating in whispers. At church, women leaned in to gossip. "Did you hear? Miss Brooks bought that old building and turned it into a school. Impossible on a cleaner's wage. She's smarter than she lets on. I always said so." While Evelyn was building, Claire's world was falling apart. The glossy wedding photos still circulated on social media, but the cracks were growing. Andrew's charm turned sour behind closed doors. He checked her phone, yelled at her over small mistakes, criticized her cooking, the way she laughed. By the 3rd month, bruises peeked faintly from under her makeup. By the 4th, he began disappearing at night, returning with the scent of perfume that wasn't hers. By the 5th month, paparazzi caught him in a car with another woman. Though Claire smiled for the cameras the next day, her hands shook during her live streams. 6 months into her pregnancy, the house exploded in chaos. Andrew shouted, accusing her of cheating. His words cut deep. His hands slammed doors. Finally, he ordered her out. The mansion's gates clicked shut behind her. Alone standing in the cold, suitcase in one hand, the other resting on her swollen stomach. Neighbors whispered through the hedges. "That's the influencer's wife, right? He kicked her out while she's pregnant." Claire kept walking, each step heavier than the last. Her mind circled with one relentless thought. There's only one place left to go. Back at the foundation, Evelyn was giving a tour to donors when she noticed a figure by the gates. Claire, hair disheveled, makeup streaked with tears, clutching her belly with both hands. For a long moment, Evelyn didn't move. She just watched. Claire's lips trembled as she called out from a distance, "Mom, I'm sorry. Please, I need you." The air stood still, heavy with the years that had passed. Nearby, volunteers whispered softly, "Is that her daughter? The one who threw her out at the wedding? What's she doing here now?" The air seemed to hold its breath. Evelyn's expression softened, but there was something deeper in her gaze, something steady. Love remained, but the days of blind sacrifice were over. The foundation gates creaked open, and Claire stepped inside. Each step cautious, as if the ground might reject her. Her dress was wrinkled, her suitcase dragging against the gravel, the baby stirring inside her, a constant reminder of the weight she now carried alone. Volunteers nearby stopped talking, their eyes following the woman who had once cast her mother aside in front of the world. Evelyn walked slowly toward her. The years of sacrifice were visible in her tired frame, but her eyes remained steady. She stopped a few feet away. Silence pressed between them, heavy with memory. Claire broke the quiet first. Her voice cracked. "Mom, I don't have anywhere else to go. Andrew, he said I cheated and threw me out. Please, I was wrong. I should never have." Her words faltered, drowned in sobs, and she dropped to her knees on the stone path. Some staff members turned away, giving them space. Others whispered just loud enough. After everything she did to that woman. Life really does come around, doesn't it? Evelyn let the words float in the air, then crouched slightly, her hand hovering for a moment before gently resting on Claire's shoulder. Her voice was calm, measured, like a verdict. You can move in, she said softly. But not in my home. You'll stay in the guest house and work at the orphanage. You'll earn every penny. Not because I don't love you, but because love without discipline blinds us. Claire nodded through her tears. She didn't argue. She didn't protest. She accepted the condition like a lifeline, thrown to someone who was drowning. Weeks passed, and people started noticing. The once glamorous influencer's wife now wore plain uniforms, serving meals to abandoned children, cleaning floors, folding blankets at night. At first some snickered. Isn't that the girl from the wedding? But slowly, the whispers changed. Others saw her tie a child's shoe or stay late reading stories by dim light, her own stomach heavy with her unborn child. And Evelyn watched from the sidelines, not with cruelty, but with a quiet resolve. She had given Claire everything once, sacrifice, love, even her fortune. This time, she would give her something different. A chance to rebuild herself through humility, through work, through grace. The day Claire's child was born, Evelyn stood outside the hospital room, listening to the first cry. She closed her eyes and exhaled a long breath. Life had come full circle. The woman who had once been cast out was now holding the door open for Claire. And for her daughter, it was only the beginning. Sometimes the greatest gift isn't money, mansions, or fame. Sometimes the greatest gift is a second chance to grow. Even if you have to start from the guest house, life has a way of writing its own justice. Evelyn gave her heart, her years, and her fortune, only to be humiliated by the one she loved most. But instead of bitterness, she chose purpose. And when the world turned on Claire, the mother she had rejected became the only shelter left. It's proof that betrayal may wound you, but it doesn't have to define you. Because true power isn't in revenge, it's in the strength to forgive while still teaching the lesson that needed to be learned. Would you have let Claire back in or left her to face the same cold world she once forced on Evelyn? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget, more stories like this are waiting for you. Subscribe so you won't miss the next twist life has in store.